We will increase our throttle to full. This allows more fuel and air into the engine. This converts the potential energy to kinetic energy, allowing the plane's speed to increase. There is 8 instruments we will look at. The airspeed indicator indicates how fast the airplane is moving relative to the surrounding air. The attitude indicator shows the attitude of the airplane relative to the horizon. The altimeter shows how high the airplane is above sea level in feet. The large hand represents hundreds of feet, and the small hand represents thousands of feet. Coordinated turn indicator indicates the rate and direction of turn. The heading indicator shows the heading of the airplane compared to geographical north. The vertical speed indicator reports the rate that the aircraft is climbing or descending. The compass reports the heading of the airplane relative to magnetic north. The tachometer shows me the engine's rotations per minute. Pressing Shift and 8 allows me to view the plane from the outside. Pressing Shift and 7 brings me back to the cockpit view. Pressing Q and E allows me to look around the plane in either view. Pitching up reduces speed but increases altitude. Pitching down increases speed but reduces altitude. Rolling right raises the right aileron, turning the plane to the right. Rolling left raises the left aileron, turning the plane to the left. In this lesson, I experiment with adding weight to the plane by increasing payload weight. I do this to see how weight affects takeoff distance and speeds. I will take off 3 times per weight change. 3 at 296 pounds, 3 at 600 pounds, and 3 at 900 pounds. In this first clip, you can see the plane doesn't struggle at all and takes off after an average of 1,483 feet at 79 knots. I calculated this by seeing where there is 0 pounds of weight on the landing gear, signifying sufficient speed for takeoff. After increasing the payload to 600 pounds, the plane feels a little sluggish and hesitates to slightly gain speed. After 2,143 feet at 82 knots, I get off the ground. Finally, I increased the payload to 900 pounds. The plane struggled a lot to gain any speed at all and had very heavy handling. 2,492 feet later, at 86 knots, I finally get off the ground. In this lesson, I experiment with lift and drag. I start this lesson 3 nautical miles out from the airport on final approach. The green lines sticking out of the wings represent the lift generated. The longer the line, the more lift that is being generated. After putting the plane into a climb for 3 seconds, you will notice the exchange of airspeed for lift. After continuing the lift, the lines eventually disappear as I have no more speed to exchange for lift and I enter a stall. To recover, I point the nose down. Now we will look at drag. I start with level flight and retracted landing gear. The plane gradually accelerates. As I lower my landing gear, the plane's drag increases and I start to slow down. This is called parasitic drag. If I lower my flaps, I will begin to slow down like with the landing gear. Flaps create induced drag to help fly at lower speeds by creating lift. This can be helpful during landing to fly at a lower speed without stalling. In this lesson, I will demonstrate the use of flaps during landing. In this first clip, I will land without flaps. I keep my airspeed around 80 to 85 knots so I don't stall. The PAPI lights help keep me at an optimum approach angle to the runway. 2 lights of each colour signify a perfect approach path. Steady and slight adjustments help keep me on a good approach. Now I will redo this landing but with full flaps. 3 white lights can be seen on the PAPI lights telling me I'm too high. I point my nose down and decrease throttle to lower the plane. As you can see, I can keep my airspeed at much lower, around 70 knots, easily without stalling. This gives me more time to adjust my flight path. Because I'm moving slower, I don't need as much room to land, allowing me to land on smaller runways. To show the power of flaps, I will land on an aircraft carrier at night with high winds. The high winds and little reference due to it being night made it very hard to stay on a steady approach. Along with this, the runway was moving into 10-foot high waves, giving the illusion of losing or gaining altitude. In this clip you can see I am making slow climbs followed by sudden descents to show the vectors change. At level flight, vectors come out of the top of the wings. No vectors come out of the horizontal stabilizer at the back during steady flight. As I climb, the vectors on the wings grow upwards. In the initial moment of climb, vectors appear out of the bottom of the horizontal stabilizer to counter the increased vectors on the wings. As I drop, the vectors swap. Now I move the center of gravity to the very back of the plane and increase the payload weight to its max to exaggerate the reaction to the center of gravity change. The plane becomes very unstable and the nose falls. I fly in a straight line and get the average elevator deflection at stable flight. Now I move the center of gravity to the very front of the plane and increase the payload weight to its max again. The front of the plane becomes very heavy and pulls the nose down. Once again, I fly in a straight line to get the average elevator deflection angle. In this lesson, I will be altering the wingspan of an RV-10. This is to see how lift is affected. In this first clip, I have set the wingspan to 50 feet. This gives the plane a lot more lift but in turn more drag. After 3 takeoffs, I get off the ground at an average of 411 feet. In this next clip, I have set the wingspan to 40 feet. The plane still has a lot of lift. After 3 takeoffs, I get an average takeoff distance of 680 feet. In this next clip, the wingspan is 30 feet. This is near the manufactured wingspan of 31.9 feet. The plane has a well-balanced lift-to-drag ratio. I get an average takeoff distance of 724 feet. At 20 feet, the wingspan appears much smaller and doesn't provide a lot of lift, however has less drag. This gives an average takeoff distance of 1,315 feet. And finally, at 10 feet wingspan, the plane struggles to provide lift. The plane is very hard to control and keeping wings level proves to be hard. After 3,213 feet on average, I get off the ground. In this lesson I will be altering the wing load on an aircraft. Out of 3 wing loads. Wing load is calculated by dividing the total weight of the wing area in feet. The first wing load test will have a plane of 2,500 pounds and a wingspan of 15 feet. Despite the short wings, they're quite wide and provide sufficient but unstable lift. After an average of 724.2 feet, I get lift off the ground. For the next test, I have a wingspan of 30 feet and a weight of 2,500 pounds again. This plane is a lot more stable, however the wings are narrower, so I get off the ground after an average of 1,131.7 feet. Finally, the plane now weighs 10,000 pounds, but has a wingspan of 60 feet. The impressively heavy V10 takes a long time to get up to speed and struggles greatly to lift off. After a long average of 3,648.7 feet, we get off the ground. Wing load is the amount of weight divided by the wing area of the plane. All 3 tests have a wing load of 16.67 pounds per foot. In this lesson, we will be altering the engine horsepower in a V10 aircraft. This is to see how increased horsepower affects the flight. I will test 3 power levels, 150, 250 and 350 horsepower. In this first clip, I have 150 horsepower. I fly straight and as level as possible for 3 minutes to find the cruising speed of the plane at level flight. After 3 flights, I found the average cruising speed to be 156.97 miles per hour or 136.43 knots. In the second clip, the horsepower has been increased to 250 horsepower. This is just below the standard horsepower in a V10 at 260 horsepower. After 3 steady flights, I find the average cruising speed to be 192.47 miles per hour or 167.27 knots. In this final flight, the engine horsepower has been increased to 350 horsepower. This is over double the original horsepower we tested and 90 horsepower more than a standard V10. After 3 flights, I get an average cruising speed of 215.6 miles per hour or 187.3 knots.